And it's with this spirit that I try to share with you my early memories about Tekie. I always wished, and I felt that I was going to have the privilege of Tekie reading my eulogy. And sometimes I even concocted, some of the words that he might say. And this is true. We used to talk about life and death all the time, and sometimes mockingly about certain issues. I remember one time I told Tekie and my wife Samuela that when I die, I want to be buried here. Tekie looked at me with surprise and he said, "Oh, don't worry, just die, we know what to do with you later on." We use these kinds of expressions, to lessen probably the pain or the thought of death and suffering and so on and so forth. But we never thought, we were going to die anyway. I will attempt to give you a quick preview or overview of our early life. And I want to fast track or rewind 60 years back to 1947. That's right, 1947. That's when we started school together. And I know there are a number of colleagues around here, Saga, Manuel, Haile Siyum, and many others, who were in school with us at that time. It's way back, a long time. But the most important event that I remember is that one day, one afternoon, we had a little recess, 10, 15 minutes break in between class, and we usually go out and play, and then go back to class. But this time, something unusual was happening. There was a group of people clustered around somebody, a little kid. And there was the head nurse or dresser of the clinic in the area, that they let us in. And this little kid was reading for her from the Bible. In the evangelical school, we learned how to read the alphabets using the Bible. And of course, Abewaldabs, Hahu. Tekie was the little kid. And he could read so well that all the students were looking at him with amazement. After it was over, I went back saying, one day I'm going to read like Tekie. And so in that sense, he was an inspiration. Of course, the book fell off his hands. It was tattered, it was paperback, and the stitching was not holding the page. And to this day, Tekie used to make fun of me saying that, you were so jealous that you kicked the book off my hands. Ever since our childhood days, our paths seem to have followed the same trajectory. This is amazing. We ended up going to the same elementary school, middle school, high school. Except in the 11th grade, he went to Tekie briefly to finish his high school. But guess what? We met again, but in a most unlikely place. We met in Harar, the eastern part of Ethiopia. We met there as soldiers. We were drafted into the army, into the military academy. I could adjust, but Tekie, it was against his chemistry. He wouldn't take it. And when we went back for vacation after 6 months, he didn't come back. He was a no-show. He kept on hiding for about a year or two, and then came to the United States on a scholarship to study. And the rest is history. He stayed here all that time. I stayed in the military, became an officer, and so on and so forth. And then I also left the military, came to the United States, stayed here, so we resumed life in the same trajectory again until this moment. Many things that we did together were so memorable. Some of them childhood days, I don't need to mention them here. But some of the words that Tekie used to say, even when we were little kids, will never go away. Because me and my friend Johannes, our friend Johannes, we were the physical type. Tekie was the philosophical type. And we used to involve ourselves in all kinds of fights and violence and all that. And Tekie would come and say, you guys have to realize that violence is the sign of weakness. Way back. And we also had some kind of an elitist kind of an outlook, and we used to look down on people who were not good academically. Oh, that will turn him off. He would say, hey guys, remember that. People have the right to be weak. I mean, these kinds of admonishments, will make us cower back. We never stand and face him. And so this is the contribution, the legacy that Tekie, has in my life and my friend's life, people that were closely associated with him early on. But there was another important, memorable thing also, and that is reading books. When we met in the 9th grade, Tekie was reading books that were heavier than his weight. I have not moved out of reading abridged, or short versions, paperbacks. And so when I saw him do that, I said, I remember, my memories way back in 1947, and said, okay, now I have to catch up in my readings. And so I started reading like crazy. And in 2 years' time, I think I must have read the highest number of books that I have ever read in the rest of my life. I remember one time he came and said, do you know what's the biggest volume in the world? I said, no. He said, it's War and Peace by Leo Tolstoy. I said, I'm going to read it. So there comes vacation time. I go to the public library. That time it was called the Assembly Library. And during the vacation, summer vacation, I would go there, read that book. You can't take it out, you can't check it out, so I have to go there like office hours and read it in about 10 days. And then I had to report to him and tell him, I finished reading War and Peace. I joined the club. But also, I had to stand the test of his inquisitive questions. Are you sure you comprehended everything? And it's up to me to prove to him that I was up to the task. But what happened was, without me knowing it, I was transformed. I was transformed into the scholarly type, reading. We read all the English literature classics available in Asmara. Our school library, which was very rich, the city library, and the American library. And wherever we go from that time on, any institution, the librarians would be our friends. This was Tekie's legacy. If I have contributed anything towards Tekie's development, it's very little, it's very minor, but I consider it to be extremely important. When we were trying to play soccer in high school, Tekie told me that he wanted to be a goalkeeper. He was very frail, his weight and so on was very, he was very small, and goalkeepers are usually husky people, strong people who can withstand, all the kicks. And I told him, if I hit the ball to you, not only will the ball go back to the end of the back of the net, but it will also go to the ball, with the ball. And he would say, that's not going to happen. And so I would kick on the ball for practically 5-6 hours. And he would be catching the ball right and left. He ended up becoming one of the best goalkeepers. And our class team at that time won the entire high school championship trophy. So, fair deal, he made a bookworm out of me, and I made a macho athlete out of him. So we complemented each other. And this was the way we lived life, up to now.